You're sitting in a waiting room. The clock on the wall barely moves. You've already checked your phone 4 times, and there is nothing new, but your thumb reaches for it again anyway. That itch under your skin, that restless pull toward anything else, has a name. You call it boredom, and you treat it like a flaw. But the real answer is far stranger. Boredom is not a malfunction. It is one of the oldest survival tools your mind has ever built. The same feeling that makes you squirm in a meeting once kept your ancestors alive on the open grassland. To understand why, you have to stop asking how to escape boredom. You have to ask what it is trying to tell you. Think about what boredom actually feels like. It is not sadness. It is not fear. It is a specific, gnawing sense that you are stuck, that your attention has nowhere good to go. A psychologist named John Eastwood, who studies this at York University, describes boredom as the unpleasant experience of wanting, but being unable to engage in satisfying activity. Read that again. Wanting to engage. The boredom is not the absence of desire. It is desire with no target. Your mind is awake and hungry, and the moment in front of you offers nothing to feed it. That is the key. Boredom is your brain refusing to accept that this is all there is. Now rewind 100,000 years. Your ancestor is sitting at the mouth of a cave.
The hunt is done. The fire is warm. For a moment, everything is fine. But staying in one safe spot forever was not actually safe. The water source could dry up. The herd could move on. A better valley, a richer hunting ground, a new tool, a new idea. None of it would ever be found by someone perfectly content to sit still. Something had to push them up and out. Something had to make sameness feel unbearable. That something was boredom. The discomfort you feel right now is an ancient nudge. It evolved to say, in effect, you are wasting your potential here. Go find something better. The people who felt that nudge explored. They migrated, they tinkered, they survived, and they had children. And those children inherited the same restless engine. You are running that engine today, in a waiting room, with nowhere to migrate to. This is why boredom feels so much like pressure. It is supposed to. A signal that is easy to ignore is a signal that does not work. But here is where it gets counterintuitive. We usually think boredom makes us lazy. The truth is almost the opposite. Boredom is a powerful motivator, and researchers have caught it in the act. Wynand van Tilburg and Eric Igu ran a series of studies showing that boredom pushes people to seek meaning and change. When people were made to feel bored, they became more interested in activities they found significant.
They wanted their actions to matter. Boredom, in other words, is not the enemy of purpose. It is the alarm that goes off when purpose is missing. So why does it feel so bad if it is so useful? Because that is the entire point of a warning system. Pain feels bad, so you pull your hand off the stove. Hunger feels bad, so you eat. Boredom feels bad, so you change something. The unpleasantness is not a bug, it is the lever. If sitting in an empty, meaningless moment felt wonderful, you would never leave it, and across millions of years that would have been a disaster for a curious, tool-making, world-spreading species. There is a famous experiment that makes this almost impossible to deny. A team led by Timothy Wilson at the University of Virginia put people alone in a bare room with nothing to do. They were told to simply sit and think for a few minutes. But there was a catch. In the room was a small device that could deliver a mild electric shock. Earlier, these same people had said they would pay money to avoid that shock. They hated it. And yet, left alone with their own thoughts, many of them chose to shock themselves rather than sit in the boredom. One man pressed the button 190 times. Sit with that. People would rather feel pain than feel nothing. That is how hard your brain pushes you to escape an empty moment. That is how loud the ancient alarm really is.
But there is a modern twist, and it changes everything about how you should treat your own boredom. For most of human history, the alarm and the cure lived close together.
You felt restless, so you walked to a new ridge, or carved a new spear, or told a story by the fire. The boredom pushed you towards something real. The discomfort had somewhere to go. Today, the alarm still rings exactly as it always did, but the cure has been hijacked. The moment you feel that first flicker of boredom, what do? You reach for the phone. And the phone is engineered by some of the smartest people alive to swallow that feeling instantly. An endless feed, a new video, a red notification. The restlessness vanishes in half a second. Problem solved. Except it is not solved. It is silenced. Think about what that means. Boredom was designed to push you toward growth, toward meaning, toward the next ridge. Now, the instant it appears, you feed it a stream of content that asks nothing of you and leads nowhere. You answer an alarm meant to make you build something with the one thing guaranteed to keep you sitting still. The signal fires, you smother it. The signal fires again an hour later, you smother it again. The push that once carried your species across the planet now dies in your hand, over and over, all day long. And your mind notices.
This may be part of why so many people feel a low, constant hum of dissatisfaction without being able to name it. Sandy Mann, a psychologist at the University of Central Lancashire who has spent years studying boredom, argues that we have become so afraid of it that we never let it run its course. We swipe it away before it can do its work. And its work, it turns out, is surprisingly valuable. Because here is the part almost no one tells you. Boredom is the doorway to creativity. Sandy Mann ran a study where she did something deliberately cruel. She made people copy numbers out of a phone book, just numbers, by hand, for a long stretch of time, mind-numbing. Then she gave them a creative task, asking them to think of as many uses as possible for an everyday object. The bored group outperformed everyone. The duller the warm-up task, the more inventive the people became afterward. When your mind has nothing in front of it, it does not shut down, it turns inward. It starts to wander, to connect, to imagine. Boredom empties the room so that something new can walk in. You have felt this without realizing it. The best ideas almost never come while you are scrolling. They come in the shower, on a long drive, while you are washing dishes, in exactly those empty, slightly boring moments when your attention finally has nowhere to go but inward.
The neuroscientist James Dankert, who co-wrote an entire book on the science of boredom, describes it as a call to action, a sign that your mind wants to be engaged and is asking you to find a better use for it. The boredom is not the dead end, it is the on-ramp. So what is actually happening when you reach for your phone the instant you feel restless? You are skipping the on-ramp. You are taking the signal that was meant to launch you into thought and discovery, and you are spending it on someone else's content. The most creative engine you own gets switched off the moment it tries to start. Now ask yourself a harder question. When was the last time you let yourself be truly, completely bored? No phone, no music, no podcast filling the silence. Just you and an empty moment, long enough to feel uncomfortable. For most people, the honest answer is that they cannot remember. We have quietly eliminated the very state that, for 100,000 years, made us imagine, wander, and reach for more. This does not mean boredom is always good, and it does not mean every moment must be filled with grand purpose. Chronic boredom, the kind that comes from a life with no meaning at all, is genuinely painful and worth taking seriously. But the everyday boredom you feel in a line, in a waiting room, in a quiet hour, is not a problem to be deleted. It is information.
It is your oldest instinct, tapping you on the shoulder, telling you that your attention is too precious to waste, and that somewhere out there is a better ridge to climb. The next time it comes, try something almost forgotten. Do not reach for the phone. Let the boredom sit. Let it get a little uncomfortable. Listen to what it is actually pointing at. Maybe it is telling you that you are in the wrong meeting, the wrong habit, the wrong loop.
Maybe it is simply clearing the room so a new thought can arrive. Either way, it is not your enemy. It is the same ancient voice that pushed a small, curious animal out of its cave and eventually across the entire world. You're sitting in a waiting room. The clock on the wall barely moves. And that restless itch under your skin is not a flaw to be fixed. It is 100,000 years of survival, quietly asking you a single question. What are you going to do with this moment? The only real mistake is to answer it with your thumb.